So welcome back to the practical session for our database application development. So this is when we open our Visual Studio. So that is the start screen. So we start with the create a new project. We start with the console application. I have been developing the console application for a long time, so it is right on top. So I say next and give the database demo app, give the name, and then we can select core, or maybe we can, whichever you use, doesn't matter, it is fine. And then we can create the application, and once it will create all the project. So we can see that in the project we have some applications. We have a program.cs and it's say hello world. I say hello. Why my caps lock is getting on? Database world. So first of all, we need to add a entity framework in our project. So how we can do that? Okay, so we can right click, and we have this solution explorer. What's that? Why it is moving? Okay, anyway, so we can right click on that particular specific project name. This is our solution and this one is our project. So we right click on our project name, we say go to add. We have the manage NuGet packages. So we manage NuGet packages, and in the manage NuGet packages we go to the browse and we write entity and we search. So once we search, so we have that particular, we have like Microsoft Entity Framework Core, Microsoft Entity. So we are looking for that particular specific entity framework. Okay, so it say that it is the latest version 6.44 and give some information. We click on the install, it will say it will asking me something to that, installing all those packages. I said okay, and then it give me the accept the terms and condition of that particular specific framework, and I say yes, I accept those things. And if you look at in that particular output window, it is installing that particular specific uh, entity framework. Okay, so we can see at the last there is finished, and there is no error, and we can see that there is no warning, there is no error. So it means that this particular specific framework has been installed. So we can close that thing, we can also close that particular specific thing, and we are here. Now what we need to do, because we are working on the code first, so what we need to do, we need to create the classes. So remember that I give you the we have a student class, we have the course class, and then we have the enrollment class. In the enrollment class, we connect that which student is enrolled in which specific course. So we need to create those classes. So I say that go to add, right click on this product name, go to add, I add a new class, and here I need to create the student class, student.cs. okay, and once we enter, it has created that particular specific class for us. We go back and then again add the course class, course class, and then we also have the enrollment class. So we need to add another class, that is enrollment. Class. So we have created all those classes, and the next thing that we need a database context. Okay, DB context, you can give any name that you want, but that should be so. we can say that because this is related to school or college, so I say college database context. So this is our college database context, and this class should be the child of the DB context that I have explained you in the lecture. DB context class, so we have using, and then we have system dot data dot entity. Inside the entity framework we have that, so we can say that DB context. So if you look at that, it has created that particular specific thing. Now this particular class that we have, college database class, that is our class that we have created, and this is the subclass or the child class of the DB context, and that particular specific DB context class is coming from the entity framework. So now first of all, let us start with the student, what type of information that we require there. So we can say that we can start with, we have a student ID, so we say public int ID, and then we can say that it is a set and get methods will be with that one. We also have the public string first name, and then again we have set set and get methods. Similarly we have public, and then we also have last name, not this one, string last name set and get methods. So these are the properties that we have the set and get methods. Then we also have a public, we say date and time, and then we can say that admission date. So admission date, again we have set and the get methods for that particular specific property. And then we also have a public, we can say that list, and then we can say that enrollment. Okay, it is a list of type enrollment, and we can simply say that enrollments, and then again we have set and get. So what I will do, I will also make override a toString method. So whenever we want to print that particular specific student, then we can get the values what we want to print on the screen. ID, that is the ID of that particular specific student, and then we say that we want to put a space in between the ID and then the last name, and then we can say that again put some space between that, and then we have the first name, and then maybe we want like to print the put some space, and then we have the admission date. Okay, so that's it. We will generate the string from the information of the student class, and then return that particular specific thing. So whenever we want to print some information, then we can use that particular toString method that will convert the student object into a string format, and then we can add those information. And then we also have the student. This is the empty constructor. I'm also going to create another constructor that is going to take a few information as an input, for example int ID and string first name and string last name. So it is taking that particular specific string first name and last name, and then saving those information in the student object. So we can say that this dot ID is equal to ID, that is coming as a parameter, and this dot first name is equal to first name, and this dot last name is equal to last name, and then we can say that this dot admission date is equal to date and time dot now. So what this now will do, it will say that whatever the current date is, it will save that particular specific information, because once we are when we are creating that object, we are giving the admission. So that is the today's date is the date of the admission. And definitely enrollment cannot be created at this particular specific time, so we can just leave that particular specific time. We can initialize that particular specific enrollment part later on once we have some enrollments, and then we can initialize that thing later on. Okay, so right now we are done with the student class. Now we can open the course class. Okay, and in the course class again we need to have some information. So first of all, we have the information like we have the again public int, and then we can say that course ID, and that we need to set, and we need to have those set and get methods. Okay, yep, and then we have a public string, and then we have the course name, and then again we have set and get methods. What else we have? We need to have that particular int credit hours. I mean credit hours, if that particular specific course has, we have set and then get method for that one. And then we also have the public list of enrollments. Okay, so enrollments, and then we also have the get and set methods. So it doesn't matter that you are writing in which order you set first and get first, first doesn't matter, so it's fine. So we have the course ID, we have the course name, we have the credit hours, and then of course the list. And then again we are going to override the toString method, and you can see again that particular specific this method is coming from our object class, that is toString. Okay, the parent class, that's object is class is the parent of every class that we are defining in the C#. So I can simply say that we have a course ID, and then we leave some space in between, then we have course name, and then we can again leave some space in between, and then we have credit hours. So this is going to be returned. Fine. Let me roll down this thing so you can see the clear code, all the code. And then of course we have public course and an empty constructor. I don't need to do that particular specific thing. Control C, because this is an empty constructor, it does not do anything. On the other hand, we also are going to create another constructor that is going to take some values as an input, int ID, and then we have string course name, and then we also have int hours. And we can simply say this dot course ID is equal to ID, and then this dot course name is equal to course name, and then we have this dot credit hours is equal to the hours. So these course ID, course name, and the credit hours, these are the parameters or the properties, not the parameters, these are the properties of the class which exist that we have defined here, or properties of the class. And then here ID and course name and the R, these are the parameters for this particular specific constructor. Okay, so we are also done with our course class. We have simply created some properties, we have override the toString method, and then we created two constructors. And now we save that particular specific thing as well. We will come back to the program class later on, and then now we talk about the enrollment. In the enrollment, we have the enrollment ID. So we have that particular specific enrollment ID. So let's start. We say public, and then we have int type, and this is enrollment ID. And again, we can have the get and the set methods. We also have the public date time, because we have this is called enrollment date. And again we have set and the get methods. The other thing that we need here is the public double grades, and then again we have set and the get methods. The next thing that we need to understand, we want to connect this particular specific enrollment with the course and with the student. So now we have two different ways to do the things. The first thing, simple way, is that we can say that we have a student object here, student, student, and then we also have the set and the get methods. I will show you that what does it mean. So we have course, and then we have the course as a name of the parameter, and then we have a set and get methods. So we have these things. So we have integer, that is an enrollment ID, we have the enrollment date, we have the grades for that particular specific course, which are the final grades which will be allocated to that student at the end, and then this enrollment ID belongs to which student and which course. So we make a connection through the enrollment, we make a connection between the course and the student. And then we, of course, we want to override the toString method. The reason is that whenever we want to print that particular specific class, it automatically convert the information within the what you can say that enrollment ID, and plus we not this one, I need to put some space in between, and then we say enrollment date, and then we can put some space in between, and then we can say that we have grades plus grades, and then we have some information like /t, and then maybe we would like to print the student ID, student dot ID, and we can again put some space in between the student ID, and then we can also have the course dot ID. Okay, so in this way we are printing the enrollment for a student, enrollment ID, when that particular specific student has enrolled, what are the grades, who is the student, and who is the which course is we're talking about. And then we create two again constructors, enrollment. Okay, the first one is empty, so the second one again enrollment, and here we are going to give some informations as a parameter. So in this one we can say that int ID, and then we can have the course C, and then we have the student S, because we have to initialize those values to them as well. So we can say that this dot enrollment ID is equal to ID, and then we say this dot course is equal to C, and this dot student is equal to S, and then we can also set this dot enrollment date is equal to date and time dot now. So it will initialize the values of the ID, date, grades it up is by default will become 0, so we don't need to worry about that in the beginning when we are creating the enrollment and we assign the student and the course. So we have those information, so we are all done with that particular specific enrollment class. So now finally we come to our college database context. So here we need to create what we can say that the DB sets, we call them database sets. So first of all, we can say that we have public, and then we have DB set, and then this DB set will be on created on which one we want to create on the student, and then we can say that the name is the students, and then again we have get and the set methods for that particular specific database set. Similarly, we can say that public, we have DB set, and then we have course, and then we can say that courses, and we also have the set and the get methods. Similarly, we will also create a DB set for the enrollment. So public DB set, and then we can say that enrollment, and then we say that enrollments, and then we also have the set and the get methods. So we are all done here for that particular specific DB context. So what this DB context will do, it will open up or create a, when we are running it for the first time, then it will create that particular specific database. Now what will be the name, as we have discussed in the lecture, that our class, our project name, let me open that solutions. Our project name is database demo app, so it will create a database demo app dot college database context. So it will take the name of the class that we have created here, and project name dot college name, the college database context, that will create a database. So what we need to do here, so we need to create a college database context is equal to new college database context. So once we have done that, it will automatically create that particular specific database, and then it will also have that particular specific information about that we have DB students and the course and the enrollment. So it will also create those particular specific what you can say that it will create those tables, and based on that particular specific information, because enrollment contain the student object and enrollment contain the course object, so it will create, so these enrollment IDs, the course ID and the ID, they will become the primary keys of those tables, and it will automatically, because student object is encapsulated or has the enrollment object has the student and the course, so it will automatically create a foreign key reference or foreign key relationship between the enrollment and the course, and between enrollment and the student. So it, looking at just the classes, it will automatically perform those, create those tables, create the relationships, create the primary keys as well. Okay, so what we need to do in that particular specific program, so of course we want to add some students. So once we have created that particular specific context, so we can, using those DB sets, we can create, so we can simply say that we have a list, and a list is actually, this particular specific list is in the using system dot collections dot generic. So in this one we have a list, that's what we can say the generic list, and then we can say we want to have a students is equal to new list, and it will create that particular specific list. Now if you remember that we have created the what you can say that the constructor which can take the ID, first name and the last name, and it will create. So we can say that uh, students, that's the name of the list, dot add, and then we can say that new student, and then we can provide the information. For example, uh, we are providing the first name and then we are providing the last name. Okay, fine. So we are providing Abbas and dot and Malik. So we have provided those information. Then we can simply what you can say that if you are on in that particular specific line and then you say control D, it will automatically duplicate that value. I change the primary key and then I say Jack and Jack Blake, and then again I say that I want to duplicate, I want to add 3, and then I will say that I want to add a Mary Holmes. Again I control D and then we say Keats Michelle, and then we change the primary. So now we have created a list of the students. We have not put that information in the database yet. So what we need to do, we say that contacts dot students, the students data set that we have created over there. If we go back to our there, so we are talking about these students. So we have the students. So once we have the students dot, we say add range. We are adding a multiple values inside it. Okay, so those multiple values are actually a list of the students that we have created here. This particular specific list of students where we add 4 students inside, it will automatically take all those 4 values and added them into it. And if we go back to our student, it will automatically create the current date or the 2 days date as an admission date. So we have provided the ID, we have provided last name and first name, and then we are automatically assign the current 2 days date as a, and once we have added that particular specific thing in our student data set, we need to say that context dot save changes. So we need to ask that save those changes inside our database. Okay, so we added a few records in our students table. Now we also need to we can see that if those particular specific records has been added inside our database. So we say for each variable s in, we can say that context dot students. Okay, so once we have those context of students, we can simply say that console dot write line, and then we can simply say that student data, and then we can say that s dot to string, because that is the purpose. Instead of like making this particular specific thing again and again, we have written down our to string method here, and that will automatically convert that student object into a string representation, and it will print it on the screen. So okay, now we also need to add a few what you can say that courses. So we can again create a list of courses is equal to new list, and then we can, now we have a courses dot add, and then we can say that new course, and we have a constructor which take 2 values. One is the ID, and then the second one is the D201 and advanced programming. Okay, so let's go back and see that we have the integer we have, and then we also need to provide the arts, the third parameter, that is 15. So again we can simply say control D, it will create a duplicate that particular specific value. I change that ID to this one, and then D102 102, and we also have that particular specific. This is a programming course. The credit cards are again the same, and now we need to add that particular specific list of the courses into our context, and then inside we have the courses data set. In the courses we are going to add a range, and then we are going to provide those courses as an input, so it will add those into our data set. So we want to save those information inside our database, so we say that we want to use those save context. Okay, so if you look at that particular specific code here, in this particular specific, we create a list of courses, and then we add two courses in that list, and then we add that courses list inside our data set of the courses, and then we say that we want to save those changes inside our database. Now we can add some what you can see that we can see that if we have for each variable c in context dot courses, I then don't think so that we could have only one console.print, so we don't need to put that particular specific block. So right line, and then we say that we have a course data, and then we can say that c dot to string. So it will call that particular specific method, convert that course into a string, and then we have those values. So it will show that this particular specific information has been stored. Now we talk about again enrollments. Again, I create a enrollment list. Enrollments is equal to new list. Okay, and now we need to enrollments dot add. So when we want to add, if we again go back to our constructor, so we need to provide three information. We have the ID, we have the student, and we have the course, and we have the student. So what we need to do here, so that's fine, we need to say new enrollment. We want to create a new object, we say 1, and now we need to provide the course. Okay, if we go back again, we have to course and the student. So first of all, we need to provide the course. How we can get the course object from our context? So we say context dot courses dot find, and I say that I want to make the enrollment inside that inside the course number 1, that is advanced programming. And the second object that is required, because if we talk about this one, we have this, and this is our enrollment. So enrollment object need 3. First of all, the ID, which we have provided, then it will ask for the course object, which we also have provided, but now we also need to give the student object. So we say students dot again finding student with the specific ID. So again I say that 1, and in this way we can have those values. Okay, so we are enrollments, that is the list of enrollment that we have created. We want to add a new object inside it, so we say new enrollment, and then in the enrollment constructor we are passing the ID, then we are passing the course, and then we are passing the student. So let me what you can say that put them in the one line so that we can do the control D part. So we have this thing, then we have, okay, can we do that? No, we need to have this, and then we have this. So we have this particular specific enrollment that is going to happen here. So again I say control D, so I need to change that thing. I will keep that course at this one, but I'm going to change the student. So that's the enrollment number 3, and then we have the student number 3 as well. So we have 1 2 3 in the advanced database, 3 enrollments in the advanced database. And now I'm just going to make another control D. Here we say that enrollment is 4. Now I'm going to change the course as well. So here I say that I want to have 1, and then we have control D. This is changing the ID. Keep that at programming course, and then make 4, and control D. Then I have that particular specific 6, and then I make it 3. So in the course number programming course, we have the student 1 4 and 3, and in the advanced programming course we have student 1 2 and 3. So we have those enrollment that has been made. Fine. Now again we can see what enrollments we have inside our we need to add those enrollments into the context dot enrollments dot add range. We need to add range, and then we can say that we want to add those enrollments inside. And finally we can say that context dot save changes. So we have saved all those information. Now we can also look at for each variable e, that's in the context dot enrollments, and then we can simply say that because we also have those courses. Okay, so those courses enrollments in the context, so we can simply say that console dot write line, and then we can say that enrollment data, and then we can say that e dot to string, and then because this is a method, so we need to put that parentheses over there. And if you remember that we have not added any kind of enrollments for the student or for the course. So let's start with something that we want to add some enrollments for the students. So what we need to do, we can query our database or the context that try to find all the enrollments for a specific student. Okay, so how we can do that? We can say that student enrollment, and that particular specific thing I want from enroll in the context dot enrollments. Okay, this is what we have here. Okay, from the enrollments, find all the enrollments. So this is right now, if I just say that select enroll, it will actually select all the enrollments which are present in the context. So we have from enroll in the context of what particular specific. It says that could not find the implementation of the query pattern. So actually what we need to do, we need to come up here and then say that we want to using system dot link. So once we have done that, it will resolve that particular specific problem for me. So now right now it say that all the enrollments which are present in the context, it will bring up. So we need to have that where by class. So where we can say that we want to have the enroll dot student dot id is equal to 1, for example. We need to check, make it a double because we want to do the comparison. So we say that this thing. So now if we look at that particular specific thing, what is happening here, we are writing a query from enroll in the context of enrollment. So it will talk about all the enrollments, Where the student ID of the enrollment is equal to 1, it will return me only those. So if I just go back here, hmm, this particular specific student ID 1, hmm, this one, this is actually enrolled in both of the courses, so it will only send reply. I mean, this particular specific query is going to send me back the two objects, two things. And we can simply say that because we want to make a to list, so we convert that particular specific thing into to list, so that that list of the enrollments can be saved in the student object as a, so in the student object. So we have a list of enrollment, so we convert that in as a list, and then we can simply say that in the context in the context dot students dot uh, we want to have find a student with a specific key. In our case, this is the one dot enrollments, because this particular specific code context dot students data db set find one, it will return me a student object, and that student object contains the enrollments. And now we can simply say that student enrollments. So that is maybe I think that we can convert that into the plural, so student enrollments. Now we have saved those student enrollments inside our student object. Okay, and because we have made some changes in our context, I say we need to put that semicolon and then context dot save changes dot save changes. Okay, so we have saved changes. Now I will just leave that particular specific thing here and then run the code, and now you will see that how these things are being created. As I told you in the main that it will be in the C column users and the name of the user, it will save the database here. And right now we did not change the database name. It will just say that it will create the what is the project, our solution name. I've just put that in here. So we have a database demo app dot database college database context as a database. So if I just try to run that program here, it will create that particular specific database for us and perform all the functions that we have just performed. So finger crossed, everything worked perfectly fine. So it is trying to compile the program, and now we can see that there are a lot of memories being used. It means going into the database engine, creating that database, creating that, understanding the relationship, creating the tables, building the relationship. And you can see that we have that first line, hello database world, has been created or has been printed on the console. uh, the next one, we can say that it will also add those values. Yeah, you can see that. And now we have, if we just look at the output, so it has printed all four students, Malik Abbas, because the last name is coming first. So Jack Blake, Mary Holmes, Michelle Keats. Then we also have these two courses names, and then it also has these 6 enrollments has been printed. The last enrollment that we have added inside our what you can say that this particular specific part, that we have added the enrollments in our student, that's Abbas Malik, and then we added 2 enrollments in that enrollment list and save the changes. It has been saved. How? Let's see that we can try to see where our database is. First of all, let's go into the file structure, and you can see that database demo app dot college database context. So it has created that particular specific file. So now we have that particular specific server explorer. So here we have a database connection, Azure connection. We have the server. One SQL server is running on my machine, so that's also visible here. So what we need to do, we need to create a connection. So we say add connection, and then we click on the change, and then we want to use the database file to connect with. So we can browse that particular, so we can go into the C column, then we have the users, then we have mg Abbas Malik, and then we try to find that particular specific database file that has just been created. So when we open it and then we click OK, it will create that particular, it has created that connection. And now under the tables you can see that we have courses, enrollments, and the student table. In the students table we have the ID, we have first name, last name, admission date, and this key is showing that this is the what you can say, this is the primary key of that particular specific table. Again, we have enrollment ID, we have this enrollment date, we have the grades, but on the what you can say, that course underscore course ID and student underscore student ID. So it is not saved the student object or the student course object, rather than it just saved the IDs, and these are actually what you can say that become the foreign keys for the student and the course table. Again, in this course we can see, we can right click on the table name, and then we can say that show table data, and it will show me that particular specific table as well. You can see that we have enrollment IDs 1 2 3 4 5 6, and then we have grades, and then we have the 6th of June, that is our today's date 2022, and then we have the course ID, we have the student ID that we have added. So all the information has been added. Now let's go back to our what we can say that explore table here, and then we have students, and then in the student table if we try to show that show table data. So now if we look at that, there is no enrollment here. I mean, here if we go back, let me click on some if we go back to our student, we have a list of the student. For our programming purposes, yes, we can use that enrollment, quickly access those, so we don't need to run the queries across the data sets and then find those information and show them on the screen. But the point is that inside the database table we don't have that particular specific information. Reason is that it has actually look at all the design, that student class design, course class design, enrollment class design, and it automatically create those relationships that are more understandable for the relational database management system. It has created, if I just try to open that particular specific node, trigger new query, open database definition. So it is just trying to retrieve those information and then see. I just wanted to show you that it has created the foreign key relationship. So in the database it does not make sense that it saving all the redundant informations of the course and the students within one record of the enrollment. So it will just create that particular specific foreign key relationship, and now you can see that we have that particular specific thing, and we have the two foreign keys. One foreign key is on the course ID that connect the enrollment table with the course table, and then the second foreign key is on the student ID that will connect the what you can say that connect the enrollment table with the student. And using those foreign keys we can access the enrollments of each student. We can also access the enrollment of the each course, but that is not what we have designed inside our program. So now there are few what you can say that though it will automatically look at the design, and based on that particular specific best database design, it will automatically create that database. So we have a few things that if we try to convert back, then it will be problematic. What does this mean? For example, if I come back here and then say here, for example, I mean every time we have the enrollments, so I want to access the enrollments of the each enrollment of in the student table. So we can see that uh, for for each, and we have a variable e in context dot students, and we are finding, because we have student 1 dot enrollments. That's fine. We have that particular. Let me close it down. So we are saying that in the student data set, find the student 1, that is Abbas Malik, with the key 1. Actually, find a student with the key value 1 and find its enrollments. And now we can simply say that we want to print those information on the screen. So what I'm going to do here, because we have already executed that particular specific part, so up to this particular specific line I am going to edit those things. We want to make them the comments, or maybe I can just say control X. We can just control X, we can delete that particular specific data. So now I open the context, create a connection between the existing database, which is we have already created, and then in the context we are going to student data set, find the student with the ID 1 and finding its enrollment, and now I want to print the data. So let's see what's happening over there. So when we are adding the things inside the database, that is perfectly fine, but when we are reading back into our program, then there will be a slight some problems exist, because we are thinking that the things are going to be automatically created for us. Like in the enrollment we have the student object and we have the course object, but that is not saved inside the database. So what will happen here? So it say that a null reference, so it actually object reference not set to an instance of the object. So whenever we are actually bringing it back from the database, it says that no, you don't have that particular specific enrollments inside it. Okay, so that's something which we need to understand. Okay, now we need to start thinking like a database, what is in the database, and then when we are getting it back, it will be same information that is coming from the database. In the database we don't have the enrollments, we have only the student ID. Okay, and then what you can say that then it will be what you can say that it's a problematic. So okay, one more thing that, okay, yeah, so how we can solve that particular specific problem. So this is something which we need to understand. Yes, we are talking about the code first, but still we need to say that here in this, what you can say that in this particular specific enrollment class, rather than we having the student ID, we can say that we don't want to have the student object, we want to have integer, and that is a student ID. Okay, and then here again we don't want the course object, rather than we want to have the student ID. Okay, and then here we have the course ID and the student ID, and then of course we need to say that here we are going to have the int CID, and we have int, and then we have SID, we are going to ID, and then we have ID, and then here we have ID and ID. So now the integer that is taking the integer values, that is again taking the integer value, public int student ID, public int course ID. So let me stop that particular program because it is running, and it's, so now you can see that it's changed. So now instead of having that particular specific student object or the course object, we are trying to have that particular specific IDs over there. Okay, Fine. Now what we need to do here, and then again, one more thing that I would like to share that say before we can say that we have that particular specific thing here in the context class. We can say that public, and then we say that college database context, and then we can have that particular specific what we can say that inside the base class, we have the base, and then we are passing a string. So in that particular specific thing, we can, for example, college database. So what will happen here, instead of creating the default name of the database, it will say college database. It will create a database with the name of the college database. So we just come back here, and I say that I want to control Z. I want to bring back those in, yeah. Control Z, I mean, I want to bring it back. Yeah, we have that particular specific control. And now we need to change a few things here when we are talking about the enrollment. So in which is actually it is a student ID directly, not in the student object and then ID. It is directly this one. Is there any other errors? Yes, we have when we are adding the what you can say that when we are adding the course, actually we are adding the course ID. So we say course ID, and then we say course ID, and then we say course ID, again course ID, and then we say course ID, and then we say course ID. The same thing we need to do for our student as well. So we can say that dot ID, because here is not ID, dot ID, dot ID, dot ID, and dot ID. Is there any other error that we need to resolve before we can run that program again? And now we need to change a bit here. So we are saying that find the students dot find the IDs. Okay, so what we are going to do here, so we have the students dot find one dot enrollments, and then we are printing that thing on the screen. So let's let me, after this one, I'm say that console dot write line, and here we can say that slash n slash n slash n, and then we print. Okay, student enrollment data from student object, or just to make sure, because we are printing the enrollment, we are already printing the enrollment, and then we are again printing the same kind of enrollment, so we don't want to like intermix, and then we say that where is our data. So I just try to run that program again, and then you can see what's happened over there. So it's compiling, trying to connect the database. Actually this time which is creating the database, because we are changed that particular specific context class and give the database name, customized database name. So if I just go back here, and then a database should appear here. Yeah, look at that, it automatically just right in front of our eyes is college database has been appeared, and look at that. So it showed the informations that 4 students, 2 courses, then the enrollment, all 6 enrollments, and this here it is only showing me the enrollments for the student number with the ID 1. Okay, and in this one case it is a pass Malik, so it's only showing 2 different So again, because we have changed the database, so we can add a connection with that. So we can change, we want to use the database file, browse that particular specific file. We are already in that particular same folder, so we say query database, open it, and then connect it. And then again here you can see that we have the enrollments, and then we can see the data in the tables as well. Now one more thing, that if I just try to run that program, and that is something which I've left with you as a homework or as a self learning. So if I just try to run that program again, then what happened? Again, it is because database already exists, it will open that database, make the connection, and it will perform the same queries. So if I just try to what you can say, that where is my uh, where is my okay, we have the explorer. I just keep that thing here, and then I say that I want to see the student table data, and you can see that it is actually, now it has the 12 enrollments. It has 4 enrollments for the student 1, and now we have 8 students and then 4 courses. So what happened, so when we run that particular specific program again, it is again add the Jack, Black, Mary and Holmes, 4 students again add. So what happened, it is not considering the ID part, it is just saying that it auto increment that particular specific. Because we run the program again, so what will happen, it is adding the same students again, same courses again, and the number of enrollments become 12 rather than 6, and then for the student ID 1 the enrollment become double. So it is duplicating the data. Now I left that particular specific task with you guys, how we can resolve, how we can find out on the internet and in the documentation how we can resolve such kind of issues. So that is how we can do the code first database application in the C# using the entity framework. So I hope you enjoyed the lecture. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Bye.